So today's class is all about hips. So we're going to do a bit of stuff to work above the hips, a bit of stuff to work below the hips, but fundamentally it's all about getting everything moving. We're going to start stood up today, and we're going to start with fascia circles. So fascia circles are just a really good way of getting everything moving in the body for whatever exercise comes next. So starting by lifting the left leg, just circle through the ankle, making those circles as big as you possibly can. So we'll do a few one way, and then we'll take those circles in the other direction. And then we'll work it into the knee. And then work those in the other direction too. You can always hold on to something if you're feeling a bit unbalanced, and equally play with where's best for your hands, on your hips, or maybe out to the sides. And then circle through the hip. Again, you can have hands at heart center if that feels comfortable to you. So just put your hands wherever makes sense. Beautiful, and then take those circles in the other direction too. Brilliant, then we'll come onto the other foot. So starting with the ankle, nice big circles through the ankle. And then take those circles the other way. And into the knee. And the other way. And then into the hip on this side. Just noticing whether it's easier to balance on one side than the other. If you've got more range of motion one side than the other, then take those circles in the other direction. Whether muscles fatigue more quickly one side or the other, there's always differences. And then bringing both feet down to the ground, a bit wider than hip width, circle through the hips. Really big circles. And then take those circles in the other direction. And then bringing the hips to stillness, try and get some circles going on in the middle of the torso. Maybe starting really slowly to start with, to really get that movement in the center of the spine. This one gets your brain working too. And then take those circles in the other direction. So trying to keep the shoulders and the hips as still as possible, and really getting that movement to come from the center. So it's the ribs that are moving around, the middle back. And then a few circles through the shoulders, really squeezing the shoulders up, dragging the shoulder blades down the back. And then the other way, squeezing the shoulder blades behind you and rolling the shoulders forwards. And then a few circles through the wrists with really stretched out fingers. Really making those circles in the wrists as big as the wrist joint will allow. Then take them the other way. And then with a closed fist, circle one way for a few rounds. And then the other way. Feeling how that changes the stretch in your forearms. And then a few circles into the elbows. And the other way. And then we'll do really big circles with the arms, but moving them quite slowly. So we're using the muscles to do the circles, and we're not just using momentum. Really reaching up, reaching back. and then take them the other way, reaching back, reaching up. And then let the arms come down by the sides, take the left ear towards the left shoulder. Just hang out there for a moment, just letting all of the muscles and tendons settle in that position. And taking the right arm around the back, and then hold it with the other hand, just to increase that stretch down the side of the neck. And release the arms, roll the chin around the front until the right ear comes over towards the right shoulder. Just hang out there for a few moments, letting the muscles and tendons become used to the shape you put yourself in. Then take the left arm around the back, trying to get the palm to your side, and then you can place the other palm on top. And then releasing that off, take the chin to the chest, interlace the fingers and cup the back of the skull. And then keeping the chin really close to your throat, press the head up into your hands as you release that, as you resist that movement with your hands. And then lastly, take the hands behind the back, interlace the fingers and stretch the hands away from you to really open the chest. Then take the chin towards the ceiling, keeping the back of the neck long, but until you find a little bit of stretch down the front of the throat. Excellent, then bring the head back to center, release the fingers. We'll just do a few breaths. So as I said, tonight's all about the hips and getting the torso talking to our lower body. So these breaths will take a little bend in the knees, so you're coming into like a horse pose. And then inhale the arms up above your head, really reaching up, looking up. Then as we exhale, the hands come down front and center and we go back into our horse stance again. So inhale the arms out to the side, reaching up, looking up. Exhale down into horse stance. Inhale, reaching out to the sides, looking up, reaching up. Exhale down front and center, bend the knees. Inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. 3 more like this. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. Fabulous. 1 more for luck. Then release the arms down by the sides. Step up towards the tops of your mats. Feet either together or hip width, whichever feels best for your anatomy. Inhale, arms up, reaching up, looking up. Exhale, folding forward, big bend in the knees. Let the upper body lay over your legs. Just have a couple of breaths here, just letting the spine decompress. Getting used to being upside down. Then inhale into a halfway lift. Long back, long neck. Then exhale, fold. Step the left leg back, step the right leg back, and push back into a downward facing dog. So knees can be bent here. What's more important is to have a long line for your wrists, up through your arms, through your spine, all the way to your sit bones. So I'd much rather that your knees were bent than you trying to reach your heels to the floor, which pushes the shoulders forward, which then means you're using your muscles to stay in the pose. So stretch the chest through towards the thighs, bend the knees. And then have a wiggle and a jiggle wherever you need to in your dog. Maybe you feel like padding your heels down to the floor, one heel then the other. Maybe you feel like stretching out through the shoulders or just stretching the back. Move wherever you feel you need to move. And then inhale the left leg up behind you, bend at the knee and open the hip. So we're really trying to get into those deep core muscles, stretching through the core, stretching the toes over the top of the back towards your shoulder. Have a couple of breaths here. Try and feel that your shoulders are even and you haven't let the left one pop up. And then even out the hips. Do 3 circles through that hip, keeping the leg bent. Really nice big circles. And then take 3 circles in the other direction. And then reach those toes all the way up to the ceiling and pop the toes back down onto the mat. Inhale the right leg up, bend at the knee, open the hip. Really stretch those toes over the back to stretch the deep core muscles on this side. Try and keep the shoulders even. The right one has a tendency to try and pop up. So try and keep those shoulders even. Stretch those toes over the back. Really getting into those deep core muscles. One more breath here. Then level out the hips. 3 big circles through the hip on this side. And then 3 circles in the other direction. Excellent. And then stretch those toes all the way up to the ceiling once you've done your circles. And then drop the toes down onto the mat. Take the knees down onto the mat, take the hips back towards the heels, and just take a moment to rest in child's pose. Keeping the arms active, so keeping the elbows off the floor, stretching the fingertips forwards as you try and stretch the sit bones back towards your heels. Really lengthening the spine in both directions. Then lifting the head, walk the hands over to the left, and then really stretch the right armpit down towards the mat, stretching out down the whole right side of the body. Couple of breaths here. Then lifting the head once more, walk the hands all the way over to the right side, and then relax the head. Stretch the left armpit down towards the mat. Really stretching the left fingertips away, so you're going to stretch down the left side of the body. Really try and sit that left sit bone down towards the heel. One more breath here. And then lift the head, walk the hands back to centre. Come back up into your tabletop position. So your knees are underneath your hips. Hands just slightly forward of your shoulders. Get really, really comfortable here. And then take the right leg out behind you and bend the heel up towards the ceiling so the knee is bent. We're just going to pulse this up 5 times. So trying to keep the back as neutral as possible, so squeeze the tummy muscles in, just lift that leg up 5 times. Good, really squeezing that glute muscle. Then bring the knee back down and go to the other side. So again, knee is bent, really pull those core tummy muscles in, and then lift that leg 5 times. Really squeeze those bum muscles and then pop the knee back down to the other one. So this time really firm up the tummy muscles, really keep the back in a nice neutral position and trying to move as little as possible, so we want everything to come from the hip joint. Lift the knee and squeeze the knee in towards you. It's not going to be very far because we want to try and keep our pelvis in the same position. and we want to try and keep our back neutral. Then take the knee out to the side, and again we're only moving as far as we can without moving the rest of our bodies. Then when you can't get out anymore, start taking the knee towards the back. So it's real slow movement. And again, if you feel that your pelvis is starting to move and you've gone too far, and then bring the knee all the way back down to the starting position next to the other one. So then we'll move to the other side. So again, firm up the tummy muscles, firm up the back, press the ground away with your hands so your shoulders are firmed up too. Then lift the left knee, squeeze it in slightly, only as far as you can keep your back neutral. Take the knee out to the side. We're not lifting the hip though, we're only using the natural range of motion in our hip. And then when you can't take it out to the side anymore, take it round towards the back. Really slowly, putting everything else in, making it nice and tight. And then finally bring the knee back down to the mat. Good. Keeping that same control and focus in the body, we'll take the circle in the other direction. So moving back to the right leg, firm up the tummy muscles, firm up the back muscles, press the ground away. Then take the knee back, lifting the knee as high as you can until you feel the need to move the pelvis, then stop. Then take the knee out to the side. Again, trying to keep that pelvis as still and stationary as possible. The knee comes forward, and then we take it back down towards the mat. Then we'll do the other one. So really firm up the tummy muscles, keep that back safe. Take the knee back, lifting it up as high as you can without moving the pelvis. Then bring the knee round towards the side. Again, it's only the hip joint that's moving. Squeeze the knee as far forward as you can, and then put the knee back down on the mat. Excellent stuff. Okay, this time, take the right foot out behind you. Take a nice big inhale. On an exhale, we bring the knee to the side into cactus. Then we inhale it back out the back. Exhale it into cactus, knee to the side. Inhale it back. Exhale into cactus. Good. Pop the knee back down. Take the left leg out. Inhale it back. Exhale to cactus. Inhale it back. Exhale to cactus. Inhale it back, exhale to cactus. Put the knee back down. Have a rest if you need to. The next one, you have choices. Either inhale and then into cactus, or if it's in your practice, inhale the knee back out the back, and then lift the foot as far as you can round to the side. So you inhale it back, lift the foot round to the side. So we're really getting into the outer hip here. Lifting it back, bringing it round to the side. So we do 3 on each side. Inhaling it back, bringing it round to the side. So once you've done 3 with the right leg, switch over onto the left leg. So you can always do cactus if that doesn't suit, if this exercise doesn't suit your anatomy. So inhale back, exhale the foot forwards. Inhale back, exhale the foot forwards. Inhale back, exhale it forwards. Inhale it back, drop the knee down. Drop the hips back towards your heels and have a couple of breaths in cactus pose, in child's pose. Excellent. Then coming back up through tabletop, tuck the toes, push the hips up towards the ceiling, back into our downward facing dog. For this one, inhale the left leg up behind you, nice and tall. Exhale, bring that foot forward and bring it to the outside edge of the front left hand. Good work. From here, keep the right hand on the floor. Inhale the left arm up towards the ceiling into a gentle twist. Option to drop the back knee if you fancy, or you can keep it raised. Take a couple of breaths here. Then windmill that hand back down to frame the front foot, bringing the hips back to centre if they've moved at all. Really ground down through the back leg, and we step that front foot all the way back up into our three-legged dog. Bend at the knee, open at the hip, and then take that foot, so the left foot that's up in the air, we roll over towards the right until the left foot comes down and we can stretch back into flip dog. Nice big inhale here. Exhale, flip yourself the right way up, stretch the left foot up towards the ceiling, and then drop it back down to the mat. Good work, other side. So float the right foot up, really stretching those toes up towards the ceiling. Exhale, bring that foot forwards, place it on the outside edge of your right foot. Take a nice big inhale here. Exhale as you raise the right arm up and come into twist. Again, still got that option to bring the back knee down if you wish. Sink the hips down as much as you can. Reach that hand up towards the ceiling. One more breath here. And then place that right hand back down. The right foot is going all the way back and up into our three-legged dog, reaching those toes up towards the ceiling. Bend at the knee, open the hip. So we're coming into our psoas stretch. And then take that foot all the way over. So we're twisting over towards the left this time. Reaching the hips up, coming into a flip dog. Really reaching those fingertips away. Take a nice big inhale. Then on an exhale, flip your way back round the right way again. Pop the foot back down onto the mat. Take the knees down onto the mat. Take the hips back towards your heels and have 3 deep breaths in child's pose. Then lifting the head, coming up through tabletop, tuck the toes, push up into your downward facing dog. Then looking forwards, step the toes all the way up to the front of the mat. Exhale into your forward fold. Really big bend in the knees. Let the torso lay over your legs. Inhale, halfway lift, long back, long neck. And then exhale, fold. Then inhale, roll the back all the way up. Reaching up, looking up, and then exhale the hands through heart center. Okay, next one's dragon pose focus. So inhale, arms up, reaching up. Exhale, folding forward, nice big bend in the knees. Inhale, halfway lift, long back, long neck, and then exhale, fold. Take the left foot back, and then from here you have lots of options. You can drop the back knee, or you can keep the back leg raised. You can come to flying dragon, where you bring your hands to your front knee and really drop the hips forward and down. If it's in your practice and you want to go deeper, you can bring both hands to the inside of the front foot. You can use a block here if you want to. And you can also come down even lower, so maybe elbow onto the block. Maybe one elbow, maybe both elbows. Maybe it's in your practice to get both of your elbows on the floor. It's not in mine today. And then have 3 really deep breaths here in dragon pose. So really, really deep stretch on the legs. Really deep stretch for me in the back of my hamstring. For some of you, you might feel it in your hips or your hip flexors. Or maybe even in your outer hip on the outside of glutes. One more breath here. And then if you're using the block, move the block out of the way. Bring the hands either side of the front foot. If you've got the back knee down, lift the back knee and step it back to plank. Choices here, either knees, chest, chin, cobra, or you can come down through chaturanga into your upward facing dog. 2 nice deep breaths in either up dog or cobra. Then on your next exhale, come all the way back down to the mat, tuck the toes, take the hips back towards your heels, lifting them up towards the ceiling. Then float the left leg up. And bring the left leg forward to the outside of both of your hands. And then same options apply. You can either drop the back knee if you want to, or keep it raised. You can do flying dragon by bringing both of your hands to your front knee, or you can have both hands on the mat. You can use a block, maybe get your elbows down. One side will be different to the other. So just play and have a see. And then real deep breaths here. So really focus on sending the breath to any tight spots, and then work with the vibrations of the breath to try and ease those tight spots. One more breath. And then lifting yourself back up, moving the block out the way if you were using it. Step the hands either side of the front foot, lift the back knee if it's dropped, and then step that back foot forward so we come back into our forward fold. A nice big inhale as you come into a halfway lift, long back, long neck, and then exhale, fold again. Inhale, roll it all the way up to the top, reaching up, looking up, and then exhale, hands back to heart center. Beautiful job. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, folding forwards. Nice big bend in the knees. Inhale, halfway lift, long back, long neck. And then exhale, fold. This time we take the right foot back and we drop the knee. The front foot comes to the center of the mat. Really ground down through the right hand, and then use the left hand to wing the front knee out. So we come onto the side of our foot and we press the inside of that knee out to the side. So really stretching into the inner thigh on this one. You can lift the back knee if you want, but for most of us that will probably feel like too much of a stretch. But work with where you want to be. Then bring that foot back down straight onto the mat, lift the back knee and step it back to plank. Knees, chest, chin, or come down through chaturanga into your cobra or your up dog. 3 deep breaths here. Really expanding into the chest. Engaging the legs if you're in up dog. Then as you exhale, come back down onto the mat. Tuck the toes. Take the hips back towards the heels, pressing it up into downward facing dog. Float that right leg up behind you and then bring it forwards, giving it a tug if you need, placing it in the center of the mat. Drop the back knee. Really ground down through the left hand on this side and then bring the right hand to the inside of the knee and wing the front leg out on this side. So using your hand to give extra weight to that front knee. Again, you can lift the back knee. I have a knobbly knee on this side, so actually it's more comfortable to have the back knee lifted. But work with whatever suits you best. Couple of breaths here. And let the foot come back, let the knee roll back in, hands go either side of that front foot, lift the back knee if you have it lowered, and then step it forward into your forward fold. Exhale, fold. Really laying the torso over your thighs. Inhale, halfway lift, long back, long neck. Exhale, fold. Inhale, roll it all the way up, reaching up, looking up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Good job. Okay, a little bit of a standing series. I'm going to turn this way because it's easier to show you. So the first one in this one is literally taking your left hand in your left knee. Your left knee in your left hand even. That's a more sensible order. So we're really grounding down through the right leg. Really feeling our weight on the mat. being really, really grounded and really lifting up through the shoulders and through the top of the head. So we're really strong in our torso. Our tummy muscles are really pulled in. All of the muscles around the waist are supporting us. If you find it more helpful to have one arm out to the side to help with your balance, then have one arm out to your side. Or you can have your hand at heart center or on your hip. And then find a point to focus on. And you don't want to look down at the floor for this one because we want to keep our heads up. So your eyes want to be kind of looking to the horizon. And then once you've got that point of focus, take the knee out to the side. You can hug it in tighter if you want to, but we're really just concentrating on balancing with our knee out at that 45-ish degree angle. Good. Bring it back to center, drop it down. Ground down through the left foot. Really find your balance, and then bring your right knee into your right hand. Again, take your preferred position with your other arm. So it can be outstretched, you can be holding onto a door, hands at heart center. Sometimes even pretending like you're holding onto something, like you have your hand flat on the wall, can make you feel more balanced even though there's no wall there. Tricks of the mind. Also play around with the foot that's dangling. For some of us, keeping it relaxed helps with your balance. For some, flexing it might be better, or pointing it. So see what works best for you. And then take that knee out to 45 degrees. And if you feel like hugging it in a bit tighter, then hug it in a bit tighter. Keeping those eyes at the horizon, keeping those tummy muscles pulled in and up. Torso's really strong. Excellent, one more breath here. And then bring the knee back to center and drop it down. Good stuff. Okay, this time, figure 4. So we lift our left leg up, cross it over the right above the knee. So we're in a figure 4 shape with our legs. And then sit the hips back, trying to keep the shoulders up. So we want our shoulders and our chest raised. Really strengthening through that right leg. Pulling the tummy muscles in to support you. See if you can sit a little bit deeper. Brilliant stuff. Holding onto the walls if you need to. It's amazing how much an imaginary wall can do for your balance. We can climb up, we can climb down. And then come up, release the leg. Good stuff. Then we'll go to the other side. So really ground down through the left foot. Cross the right leg over, above the knee. And you can do that, oops, she says, overbalancing. If it's easier to do that with a bent leg than a straight leg, then obviously start with the leg bent, that's absolutely fine. And then sit your hips down, bringing your hands wherever feels most balanced. Keep the chest open, keep the shoulders high. Try not to lean forward too much. Eyes looking towards the horizon. See if you can sit down a little deeper. Really good stuff, well done. Couple more breaths here. You've totally got this, brilliant balance. Pull those tummy muscles in, squeeze your thighs towards one another. And then step it up, release the leg. Good stuff. Right, we're going to have a go at peacock pose. So this one comes with a bind. If you know that binds aren't for you and you don't fancy doing peacock pose, then the easiest way to go is this pose that we did at the start. So starting with the knee in front of you, take it out to 45 degrees and then hug it in as much as you can. If you want to have a go at the bind, we start by sitting down really, really deeply and putting one hand, I'm going to go sideways because this will be easier to show you. So if I'm sitting down really, really deeply, I'm taking my left hand underneath, through the middle of my legs and out to the side. So I'm putting the hand on the outside edge of my hip. And then take my right hand up and reach it over. So that's your bind. That's the starting position for peacock pose. You can also do this with a scarf or a hand towel, but if you can't reach, doesn't matter, because you can get exactly the same effect with the pose that we were doing earlier. If you can reach, and there is a few tricks here, as with anything, it's more difficult to do if both of your feet are on the floor. So if I'm going for this bind, first of all, really, really reach for that bottom hand. But if I'm here, I haven't got as much space as if I lift my heel, which then gives me a little bit more space to grab on a bit more tightly. So coming up onto my tiptoes allows me to reach this hand further through, so I've got a bit more space. So if you want to do the bind, which it looks like a couple of people have got the bind on, so if you want to do the bind, make the bind under your leg, really ground down through the foot that's on the floor, and then gradually, slowly pull the tummy muscles in and try and stand up tall, keeping the leg out to the side. Good stuff. If you are doing your knee just at 45 degrees, just concentrate on trying to get the knee as close to your armpit as you can when you're hugging it in with your left arm. If you're in peacock pose, really straighten that standing leg, and then see if you can straighten the top leg too. And then you release the bind and let the leg down. As with anything, one side is generally easier than the other. So if you want to give it a go on the other side as well, start off with your feet on the mat. Again, if you're just doing the knee, if you don't fancy the bind, bring it out to 45 degrees. And you can even use both hands to really pull that knee up towards the armpit. If you want to take a go at the bind, this side, take your right arm through your legs, stretch it under, lift the heel, give you a bit more space, and then take your other arm over the back. From there, you can then pull the tummy muscles in, come up to standing. And you'll probably find one side is tighter than the other. So there's no way I can straighten my leg on this side. Carry my handbag on that side, so that arm's tighter. Good effort, guys, well done. Really good effort. Okay, I'll let you have a bit of a rest after all of that. So come down onto the mats, sitting on the sit bones, feet out in front of you. And you want 2 hands widths between your pelvic bone and the back of your heels. So there's quite a bit of space between where the soles of your feet are together in front of you and where we're sat. And then just have a little moment of butterfly legs. So flapping the knees up and down. Just bouncing the knees. Good stuff. And then bringing your hands by the side of you to try and keep the spine nice and tall. This time, actively squeeze your knees down towards the floor. So we're using our muscles just to squeeze the knees down towards the floor and then release them. Squeeze the knees down towards the floor and release. Squeeze the knees down towards the floor and release. Then placing the hands on the inside of the knees, squeeze the knees into the hands as you resist that movement with your hands. And then release. Squeeze the knees up and release. Squeeze the knees up and release. Beautiful job. Then sitting up nice and tall. Lean as far forward as you can from your hips. And then roll the whole torso forwards. Let the head hang heavy. And have 3 really deep breaths here. Just enjoying the stretch down the back of the spine. And then gradually roll that spine back up to sat. Placing the hands either side of the hips. Bring the feet towards the floor. And we'll windscreen wipe the knees from one side to the other. So taking one knee down towards the center, rolling it back, and then taking the other knee down towards the center and rolling it back. Now obviously your hips and your sit bones are going to come off of the mat as we're moving from one side to the other. But just gently move one side to the other side. Just noticing where your tight spots are. Noticing if it's different on one side than the other. Excellent. And then once you've done both sides equally, we'll just come back to the center and take the right leg straight out in front of you, but keep the left leg bent in towards you. Now being that it was hips, I was going to do pigeon tonight, but I know plenty of you hate pigeon, so I've come up with an alternative, seated pigeon. Not quite such a good stretch for the opposite hip flexor, but does exactly the same for the bent leg as it would do in pigeon. So one hand is on your foot, one hand is on your knee, and you squeeze that leg in as close to you as you can, sitting up nice and tall, and then give it a little rock, like you're rocking a baby. If it's in your practice and you can get your arm into a little cradle, then you can make a cradle to properly rock the baby. But both will work. It's more important to try and keep the back nice and tall. Excellent stuff. Couple more breaths here. And then once you've done your couple of breaths, release the leg, take it back out long, and just flick the legs up and down a few times just to shake them out. Then we'll bring the right leg in and do exactly the same on the other side. So one hand on the knee, one hand on the foot. Pull the leg in as close to you as you can, stay nice and tall, and just rock it from side to side. This is really good at getting into all of the muscles around the hip joint, both on the inside and the outside of the hip, into the glutes. And again, if it's in your practice and you can cradle that leg while still keeping your back relatively straight, then feel free to cradle the leg. Good, couple more breaths here whilst we're rocking from side to side. Excellent. Okay, and then release that leg off. Now the next one is more about mobility in the hips. So we start with the right leg with the shin parallel to the side of your mat, and take the left leg out so that the thigh of the left leg is parallel to the back edge of your mat, as much as you can. Then sitting up nice and tall, just lean the body forward over the front leg, stretching the chest forwards, keeping the back as long as you can. And then keeping the back as long as you can and keeping the legs as still as you can, walk it around to a diagonal. And then just have a couple of moments to let the body settle in the diagonal. And then continue walking those hands around in their semicircle, although you'll probably have to come up a bit higher, until the body is along the back leg, as much as you can. And then walk the hands back to the diagonal. Really stretch the back nice and long. Then walk the hands all the way back around to the front. And then continue walking them around away from the hips, just to stretch evenly down both sides of the body. And then come back up to seated. Using your right hand as support next to your body, what we're going to do here is lift the back knee and its foot off of the mat. Now, obviously, if you're completely sat on your sit bones, that's going to be really, really hard to achieve. So you will need to lean over slightly to give your body room. But 3 lifts, really squeeze it up and drop it back down. Squeeze it up and drop it back down. Squeeze it up and drop it back down. This is a really, really good one for the outer hip. And then once you've done your 3 lifts, hands go behind you. We'll swing ourselves all the way around until we come to the other side. So this time the right thigh is parallel with the back side of your mat and your left shin is parallel with the front side of your mat. So sitting on your sit bones first, sit nice and tall, leaning forward from the hips, walk the hands forward until the torso is over the front thigh. Couple of breaths here. Then walking it around to the diagonal, stretch the chest forward as much as you can, trying to keep the legs as still as you can, and then walk them all the way around to get your torso as close to the back thigh as you can. Nice deep breath. Then walk it back to the diagonal. Have a couple of breaths in the diagonal. Then walk them around to the front. Really trying to keep that back nice and long, and then walk it all the way around to stretch out as much as you can down the right side of the body. Then step it back up so you're seated. Left hand goes down near your left hip. You're going to have to lean over slightly, and then we do our raises. So keeping this back leg in exactly the same position as you have it. Really squeeze the knee and the foot up so it comes up off the floor. The whole leg lifts up and back down. Up and back down. Up and back down. Maybe one more for luck. Up and back down. Good stuff. And then swing the legs around in front of you, coming back to seated on your mats. Okay. Bring the left leg in close to you. So the shin is still parallel-ish to the front of the mat. Now, depending on your hips, you may or may not be able to do this. So the first one is the left leg is the shin's parallel to the front of the mat. The right leg comes over, and literally that is the starting pose. So what we're concentrating on here is trying to get this hip open so we can press down on the left knee to try and get that knee closer to the floor. So that's option 1. The progression of this pose is to gradually take that foot further over. So your right foot comes further over and further over and further over. So we're still working on getting this left knee closer to the ground, and the other foot's coming further and further and further over. The full expression of the pose is this top leg comes up and over, and we come into fire sticks. So then both shins are parallel with the front of the mat. We're not tucking our feet underneath our hips. Our feet are staying at the front of the mat as well. So it's like you're making a triangle from your pelvis to your knees and across your shins. But like I said, if the knee is not open to you, then you can have your foot on the mat in front of you and work towards it. If the knee is open to you, be careful to make sure that it's your ankle bone on your knee and not your foot. Because if it's your ankle bone, then you keep the structure of the pose. If it's your foot, then your ankle makes it all of a sudden a lot easier to get into this pose. And we really want to concentrate on the hip. So by keeping the ankle and even flexing the foot, means that we're really working the muscles that we want to target. I also find it's helpful to lean forward in this pose. Sitting up straight just makes everything excruciating, but have a little play around with what works best for you. And then have 3 really deep breaths wherever you've got to. Excellent. Then lift up that top leg. Take both legs out straight and give them a little bit of a wiggle up and down. Just a little bit of a pad. And then bring the right leg in first, so the right leg's on the bottom. Again, maybe have a little press down of that knee towards the mat. One of these sides is going to be a lot easier than the other. And then again, start with the foot directly in front of the ankle. Work it across, just seeing actually where it feels good for you. And if you think you can go for it and you can get the ankle up onto the knee, then take the ankle up onto the knee. And then again, have a little play with where your torso is in relation to your legs. Really working on that triangle shape between the pelvis, the knees and the shins. And then 3 really deep breaths on this side. Excellent. And once you've done your breaths, untangle your legs. And we're going to come all the way over. I'm going to go sideways to show you this. And we're going to come into frog pose. So, in frog pose, we want our feet pointing out to the sides. We want our shins to be parallel. So it's quite helpful sometimes to do it sideways on your mat, because then you can have your shins parallel to the sides of your mat. Bring your hands down onto the mat. And then take the hips back as far as you can in frog pose. Now, if it depends on the placement of your hips and also the flexibility of your hips, we're all very different in that area. But if it feels too narrow for you to have your legs parallel with the yoga mat, then you can obviously take your knees wider. But if you take your knees wider, you then need to take your ankles wider too, so that the shins are still parallel. And then just relax down into this pose. So the last couple of poses have all been about opening the outside of the hips, whereas this one is very much about the inside of the hips. If full frog pose is too much for you, if that is too deep, then there's also an option to do half frog. So with half frog, you're sitting on your knee one side, whereas the other leg is parallel. So you're just doing one half. You can also do that from a crouching position if that feels more comfortable. So you're just doing one side with your knee crouched. So lots of options. Whichever you've chosen, just take a few deep breaths here, and then we'll be laying down on the floor. Okay, whichever version you've taken, very gently lift yourself up and heel knee, if that's the thing, the legs back together again. And then come around onto your back, onto the mats. So feet on the mat and roll the spine all the way back down onto the mat. Arms down by your sides. Tuck the shoulders underneath the torso. Take the right foot straight up to the ceiling and then cross that leg over the left. So again, the ankle comes past the thigh. And then squeeze both legs in towards the chest. So a bit like a reclined pigeon. Now from here you've got a couple of options depending on where you want to stretch. You can stretch the big toe of the left foot straight up towards the ceiling and really squeeze the legs in. Or you can use your hands to clasp the knee and the foot of the bent knee and then take the left leg out long, which will stretch down the front of the left hip flexor and into the front of the left thigh. So it's entirely up to you which you choose. We'll take 3 deep breaths here. Then if your left leg is out long, take it up towards the ceiling. Release the hands if you're holding onto your knee and your foot, and take the right foot up towards the ceiling as well. So both feet are then up towards the ceiling and legs up the hip pose. Bend the left knee and cross the left leg over the right thigh. And then either squeeze the legs in by really contracting and squeezing the top right leg, or hold on to the foot and the knee of the bent leg and stretch the other leg out long if you want to get that flex and that stretch through the front of the right thigh and through the right hip flexor. Whilst also putting that bent leg in means that you're getting the stretch through the back of the hip. And then 3 deep breaths in whichever you've chosen. And then lift the right foot up towards the ceiling, and lift the left foot up towards the ceiling, let the arms come down by your sides. Really engage the tummy muscles, press the palms down into the floor, point the toes, and then slowly lower the legs all the way down to the mat. Really squeezing those tummy muscles in when it gets a little bit hard, maybe going a little bit slower, stopping to hover, and then let the legs come all the way down. Release the legs, let the feet fall open. Everything relax down onto your mat. Tuck the shoulders underneath the torso. Make sure the lower back is comfortable. And any active sciatica or any pain in the lower back, bring your feet to the floor and let the knees roll in. Palms can be face up or face down, or on you if that's more comfortable. And then completely relax your body on the mat. Just watching the breath come and go as we lay here for a couple of moments in Savasana. And wherever you've drifted off to, bring the focus back to the body. Maybe you were listening to the birds in my garden that are singing beautiful songs for us this evening, or something else that's going on a bit closer to home. wherever you wandered off to, start to think about moving. Maybe circling through the wrists or the ankles, or stretching the hands away. Maybe stretching the body from the tips of your fingers to your toes. Or maybe you feel like twisting or hugging the knees in. Move in whatever way your body wants you to move. And then when you're ready, and there's no rush at all, roll over onto your side and gradually make your way up to seated. Thank you for making the effort to come and practice with me this evening, especially when it's been so hot today. I really appreciate it. And I hope to see you on your mats again soon.